Good morning and welcome back to B for TV, your daily dose of industry information. Today's episode is focusing on the shipment of used tyres, trailers and lorries and having them mistakenly treated as waste. And Robert from our policy and compliance team is here to tell us more. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Brooke.
Now, I understand that your colleagues in the policy team have been getting a couple more of these inquiries recently, so can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, as you said, we are looking at shipments which are waste and actually could be deemed as being waste.
Yeah.
And that second category is really where the problems are coming, I think. There seems to be a general tightening up on how the regulators are handling these shipments in the United Kingdom. And we've noticed the problems particularly at Teesport and Felixstowe. And there are shipments of tyres, like we've got here, and also of, in particular, older vehicles, often sold at auction. And that's one of the common themes we've noted.
Right.
Now, there's nothing wrong with it, with exporting these products and things, so long as you've got the relevant documentation to accompany it. And actually, I think that's one of the things that members are being caught out with. The regulators haven't been that strict, but now there seems increasing emphasis on, a UK industrial waste, leftover, call it what you want, not being able to be exported. And there's a variety of reasons with that. The legislation governing this is the Waste Shipment Regulations. Now, this is a piece of EU legislation which has been translated into UK law, and its reference is EC/1013/2006. Now, I've been through those regulations quite carefully, and tyres has been mentioned 4 times specifically. And they also talk about, older vehicles and, when do they stop being an old product, which maybe could be reused, to a product which is going to be classified as waste. Okay?
Yep. And just a little bit more on that. I know there's kind of some specific examples that you want to go through, isn't there?
Yes. Members have been in contact, and in general terms, there seems to be a move to tighten up on tyre exports and these older vehicles. Now, basically, to export tyres, you actually need to follow those those regulations, and it's the exporter in particular who has to make sure they've got all the documentation in place. And basically, there has to be agreement from the regulator in country of destination that they will accept this product. An old tyre's an old tyre. And there are moves that basically you won't be able to export them whole like that. They've all got to be shredded before they can go overseas. That still is working its way through. But the older vehicles are ones which are causing us a bit more concern. And as I said, they are very much a situation where it's been sold at auction. And let's put it this way, the documentation isn't as complete as it should be.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay. And when you actually see the state of some of these vehicles, you can actually understand why regulators have said, no, this is not being sold to be put back into use. This is waste. And when you look at the vehicles, it's quite clear, what some of the requirements are for the vehicle to be classified as a vehicle rather than scrap. And it's detailed in the annexes of this thing. Basically, you can ship, and funny enough, the ones which have been coming up to us in particular are old trailer units, 40-foot trailers and that sort of stuff. And they are, a requirement is that it has to be usable or near usable.
Right, yeah.
Okay. If it's got a smashed up rear axle, forget it.
Yeah.
But if it's like a light fitting that's out or something like that, that's one thing.
Yeah, if it's something smaller.
Yeah, if it's easily repairable, the regulations do account for that. If it's got an airline or hose a bit damaged and it can be replaced, that's not the sort of problem it's going to be. But if it's, back axle smashed, chassis twisted or something like that, you're not going to be able to class it as a reusable item. The other thing we've noted is, the spares for these. If you get somebody who gives you a box and everything's just been chucked in, no attempt to pack it or anything, and the documentation isn't very good, somebody says it's just lorry spares, the authorities are picking up on that.
Yeah.
They want a more detailed list. Like, so for instance, you've got an axle, you've got dampers, you've got, anything like that. It's got to be more detailed.
On exactly what's in that box.
And they're also looking to make sure the product is properly packed. These are the sorts of things that we are coming up against. And it's just for members if they are offered shipments of near end of life, shall we say, products, or something like that. Make sure, that you have at least an understanding of the regulation.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. You don't have to know it in every detail, but there are in the regulations examples of certificates.
Yep.
And there's some quite good annexes which detail, what is acceptable and what's not. Make sure you get the documentation correct, and if you can, because some of this stuff does go straight from auction house to port.
Yeah.
But if you can get either pictures or if it comes to your place, make sure that the spares parts have been properly packed.
And I know, based on what our members are saying, there's been some kind of wider commercial problems for them, hasn't there?
Yes. We've had about 5 inquiries on these issues for the last month. And in each case we get the call and it goes something like this: I've got a shipment going to, and the consignee has not accepted the freight.
Right, yeah.
And what we have to remember is these goods are the bottom end of the market in many ways. And if the consignee has found it cheaper somewhere, it's they just walk away from it.
Yeah.
Now, we have raised this many times with members. If you're sending freight, particularly if it's in a full container and you're a booking party or the agent of export, you should have processes to monitor that the freight is actually cleared off the quay at destination and removed to it. I've had problems in West Africa, Dubai, Pakistan, and in each case the line comes back to the freight forwarder in the UK, said hasn't taken delivery. One of the bills was for £76,000 of key rent and demurrage, so it's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Which obviously that does, shall we say, encourage people to move the freight.
Yeah.
Far exceeds the value of what's in that container. So members should have processes to make sure that they, can monitor that it's removed, and that they, there's not a delay.
Yeah.
Because obviously in this market, delay is cost, and that does make whether or not this product is actually economically viable. And that's the important point.
Yeah.
We have had problems also in the Netherlands.
Right, okay.
The Dutch have a organisation, it's called the Water Police.
Right, okay.
They are in the ports, and their job is to make sure there's compliance with, the ships are properly maintained and everything, and they do look at the cargo. And if they're not happy with the shipment, and UK to somewhere else, and they know what they're looking for, and they do sometimes stop shipments in the port and say that's in contravention of, because actually if it's going through Europe, EU regulations will still apply.
Yeah, of course.
And those are really the main things. So make sure from the export side, you have at least an understanding of what these regulations are, and you know what documents you need. Very much work on the principle that if you're sending this sort of product to somewhere, that the authorities at the other end have accepted it. Make sure you have the relevant documentation from the UK. And as I say, these are detailed in this, and I'll repeat it again, EC 1013/2006. That has been taken into British law. And then if you are sending them, and you're either the booking party or the named export agent on the bill of lading, that you have processes in place to make sure that the freight is cleared and it's removed from the quay to minimise your risk.
That's a great update, Robert. Thank you so much.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
If you do have any inquiries or comments about shipments of this type, please make sure to get in touch with BEFA's policy and compliance team. We'll put the contact details in the description below. That's all for today's edition of BEFA TV, your daily dose of industry information.